Folks, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop. Today is not Monday, so make sure we got that straight here. Today is Wednesday, May 28th. We're coming off Memorial Day weekend. Great to have all of us, though, here back inside our live trading room. Lee, Grant, Scott, Kevin, got Kathleen just before, Rick, Lynn and Randy, Fred, got Gillis, Margaret, Kerry, got all of us just joining us inside our live trading room, but otherwise on social media popping up here eventually. There we go. On the lower left, at Cyber Trading You, if you're new to our social media, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I like to say we don't dance for you there. We're here to educate. But our main social media is on YouTube. So especially on YouTube, find us at Cyber Trading You. Right down below, hit the follow or subscribe button there. But I'll tell you what, though, normally coming off a major U.S. holiday, there isn't as much out there to capitalize on. Markets are more sideways. You don't really see as many great day trades to work with. That's the typical pattern, at least. It's always better to set the bar low coming off of a major holiday, not to be too aggressive. Could there be stocks that pop? Absolutely. Could we have a great market? Of course, it's possible. So that's where you want to set the bar low. And if you over exceed your expectations, you feel a hell of a lot better at the end of the day compared to trying to shoot for the stars and then underachieve. So I'll tell you what, we had a great day yesterday. GameStop is actually on the screen here, so we could talk about GameStop eventually. This was a good mover from Friday, from the end of last week into this Tuesday, dropping back down here today. But I'll tell you what, the whole market's dropping down right now. I had a little pullback earlier today, not too aggressive of a drop compared to the run-up that we had, but we've been dropping steadily with lower highs today. And quite frankly, if you're familiar with why GameStop even was up to begin with, then you should know why it's down this afternoon so far, because, well, Bitcoin's crashing, right? So, hey, the title for this workshop on YouTube is regarding Bitcoin. It's about the Bitcoin crash. Are we going to keep dropping? Is this the end of the bull market? No, don't worry. Don't pull your hair out. But I want to go over a couple of things at least. This move today was the least surprising move that I have seen so far from the last several days, if not this whole month of May. Why? Well, it's from exactly what we've covered back from even a couple months ago. I want to reintroduce us here to this here in just a moment. You got the M2 or the global M2 money supply indicator. Let me actually have this straightened out for all of us here. This is Bitcoin spot price just from Bitstamp, but going up and down obviously, and back to all-time highs from the end of last year into the beginning of January of this year. So we ended up breaking those highs, moved up as high as nearly 113,000, like 112 we topped off at, I guess. But this is where I want to mention this metric, this chart on the bottom in blue. This is what's known as the global M2 money supply. So to give you not even my words, this is right from ChatGPT's mouth, but it's what we've been saying as far as what this indicates. The global M2 money supply refers to the total amount of near money, meaning super easy to convert assets into cash. So this includes cash itself and checking deposits, savings accounts, money market securities, non-short-term deposits, and that's where more liquid assets in general. So not as much like real estate necessarily, but more liquidity-based assets. But this is where I was asking ChatGPT with this global M2 money supply, the word global, right? Well, what countries are involved with this, number, with this metric? What countries are included? So it gave back to me, countries typically included in the global M2 estimates are the US, the ECB collectively, China, Japan, the UK, Canada, Australia, India, Brazil, Russia, South Korea, et cetera, nearly you name it, it's on there. So what we're pointing towards here is even back from the end of February into March, where we first introduced this to you on social media or you inside our live trading room. That's when I first learned about this metric. Seeing the correlation to a great level from the beginning of 2024 to basically today, a couple of points of divergence, but otherwise really good correlation otherwise. Bounced perfectly at this point going back into mid-March, retraced again going back into early April, and it's moving up now. Here is the thing, though. When I kind of show this and say how easy it is to relate Bitcoin spot price with the global M2 money supply, there's variables to factor in here. First, with this metric, the chart on the bottom in blue, there is a number of different variables here. You want to have the days offset, but some traders out there use different numbers. The two numbers that I've seen people use is the 76-day model. Let's see it switch up a little bit. Kind of topped off right here back in the end of last year around the same time. And although kind of pushed back up again, this was dropping off. So it was a prelude to a big crash. It eventually bottomed out around the same moment to a degree, pushing up pretty well to a similar degree. Just notice, though, what happens here. It kind of pulls back into the beginning of June. By like June 10th, it bottoms out here based off of this 76-day model, and it ended up making a pretty good bounce at that point, right? So this is just one model, the 76. I just showed the 108. That's the one I have been relying on more myself, quite frankly. I look at the two basically together, but with the 108, you could see where it formed this bottom better, kind of made a lower high at the same time, bottomed out pretty much around the same point. Now, though, this is where, as the M2 pulls back from Saturday of last week, the end of last week, into this appears to be Thursday, tomorrow, the 29th. Well, that's where we're expecting a little retracement, little pullback there, if you see there on the M2 global money supply. So is it surprising, at least either way you cut it, to have Bitcoin retrace after breaking all-time highs here? Like, it just got a little weak. These two candles on the daily chart, you got these longer up wicks, so you would at least want to see it try and squeeze back above those wicks and close over it. It didn't do that. Retraced quite a bit overnight into today. If you are trading Bitcoin, this is very important for you. If you are not in yet on Bitcoin long term, or holding on yet, if you haven't gotten in on anything yet, this is extremely important for you to dictate a good entry. If you're already in long term, don't worry about this, because long term, we're super bullish. Long term, midterm, even very short term coming up over the next couple of weeks, few weeks at least, we're expecting to see Bitcoin continue to break new all-time highs, go up to 120,000. We talked about this just a week ago, those ranges that we were discussing in last week's workshop. So right around 118K, 120K, that's my next technical resistance as far as a projected level goes. After that, nearly 130, I'd say. So you do want to take it level by level, but at least as far as the M2 global money supply goes, these are the two kind of models I've been using. I'll kind of go back and forth here just to show you. That's the 76 right here. So it's moving up, 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 and topped off right around the same time, faded back down eventually and caught up with it. The one I use is this here, the 108. This is what I see some traders online use. I kind of started to find some good confidence with using this. So either way, I was expecting at least a little pullback if you're trying to trade Bitcoin, especially if you're doing it on leverage. Speaking of leverage, boy, do I have a story for you coming up if you're not familiar with it just yet. So stay tuned. I'll go over that in the next coming minutes here. Real quick, if you're on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, etc., just make sure to follow us down below at CyberTradingU, especially if you're on YouTube. See a bunch more coming in over the last 15 minutes here. So, if you're not, joining us already on social media, just hit the follow or subscribe button there. We talk all about, Bitcoin and some other cryptos too, focusing more on Nvidia coming up next here in this workshop. But at least as far as Bitcoin goes, we ended up having a bit of a pullback here. Now, as far as leverage, let's discuss that, because obviously we're still making lower highs. Now, what does leverage mean? Does anyone here inside our live trading room, stocks or Bitcoin, either way, regardless, who here knows what leverage means? And if you do, let me know. How would you best define the word leverage? Leveraged trading, a leveraged account. How would you best define the word leveraged there? Couple of us on social media. I'll give a shout out to here too in just a bit. But what do we got from our students, at least? Because we're covering this to a small level inside our phase 2 classes coming up. Dawn says, when I am not putting up the entire capital. Yeah, very good answer there to begin. I want to see what everyone else has to say as well. So that's a very good start there, Dawn. Michael says, the ability to gain more using less. Perfect. Those two answers go hand in hand together. Piyush here, one of our students, says, using debt to fund your purchase, pretty much. Grant says money held back for a loss. Well, as far as the loss goes, using leverage means that you're putting up a smaller amount of capital to get more buying power. So with a margin account, think of the word margin. You're getting leverage. You're getting margin, power, leverage, whatever they want to, call it as such. But a margin account gives you 4 times leverage, 4 times the buying power. If you're on a margin account, put in $25,000, you get $100,000 worth of buying power, right? Now, with margin accounts here, even in the US stock market, there's what's called a margin call, right? So if you go above and beyond your limit of using margin power or leverage, depending on what you're in already, how much funds you have remaining, you might get liquidated. You might have to force to sell some assets, right? So follow me here. With leveraged trading in crypto, there's different platforms. Even Coinbase has a leveraged, type of platform or trading that you can get 3 times, 5 times the buying power, right? Well, if you're in a position, it gives you a liquidation price such that if it drops this much, then you lose it all, right? So simple enough. There is a guy out there. His name is James Wynn. You know him by name because everything on Bitcoin is recorded via the blockchain, and there's a website here that actually shows these accounts lined up. So let me show this to you here really quickly. Even if you're not familiar with Bitcoin, with crypto, this is great education because it trickles into the stock market. Not all big money is smart money, right? Our whole philosophy here is at CTU. It's to say both hand in hand. Follow the big money, follow the smart money. Because, hey, typically big money is smart money. Typically, not all the time, right? So this guy is one of the biggest degenerates I've ever seen in my 10 plus years of being here at CTU. This guy ran up a leveraged Bitcoin account. He's doing it on 40 times leverage, 40 times buying power. So, he gets more buying power for cheap, but he has a tighter liquidation level. Point being is that he actually ran this account up from around however much money to begin. He actually went up as high as $82.5 million in unrealized profits. I'll say that again for everyone in the back listening. $82.5 million in unrealized. It shows all of his transactions, shows his recent fills, it shows the completed trades. Listen, he's made a bunch of money before, but he's lost a shit ton of money before here too. So right now, he's been getting his butt handed to him on Bitcoin because he started entering this leveraged position that was worth, on leverage, $1.2 billion worth of money. Imagine being wrong, right? Now, what happens is that he was starting to be wrong. He was losing his shirt on this position, and he had to liquidate some of his position in order to at least keep some. He was being threatened of getting fully taken out. So he had to close some. He made some money on another crypto and started funding more of his Bitcoin position. Long story short, look at this graph. Look at this graph. We go from 82.5 milli all the way down. Right now he's negative. Look at this. He's freaking negative now at this point. Net total, right? He went full ride up and down. Can you imagine that? So, first off, just want to point out, not all big money is smart money, right? You could be a trust fund baby with mom and dad's money and be a highly sensitive human being, and you can't trade well with high strung emotion, right? Maybe you made that money and you're still just a degenerate gambler. Maybe you worked your ass off to make some money and you're in the stock market here now, but you're still a degenerate, right? Everyone's got their own demons that they're always fighting. Who knows what some people have going on? I'm not trying to make fun of this guy, but this just goes to really show what happens when you're wrong, right? What happens when you hold on too long when you could have gotten out a long time ago. And he actually closed out a bunch of trades just to show this. He went long, he went short, and he was losing his ass the last day and a half. These are all positions from the last day and a half, 2 days. Look at this. He closed his short out, was getting his ass kicked there, and he flipped long. Who does that? The only people that do that are either people that are 100% sure with the utmost confidence or the people that are highly emotional and they're like, oh no, it's gonna drop, oh, it's gonna go up, it's gonna drop. That's how you get your account blown up to smithereens, right? Um, Now, at least here, I think his liquidation price right now, let me even go back one more time. His liquidation price on this current position as is about 105,000. 105. If Bitcoin drops to 105,000 and change, allegedly, if he doesn't close out his position or fund more of his account, he's going to get liquidated in full. What does that mean? What happens if he gets liquidated? Well, it means that Bitcoin's likely going to drop off a lot harder at first. Then maybe we might get that bounce. So I'll come back to that global M2 money supply in just a bit. But you know what's funny? I mean, I've been hawking this like a demon lately here. So, I saw this number, 3,500 Bitcoin he still has remaining in this leveraged position. I'm pretty sure that he's been closing part of this trade out as we've been talking. No? Let's see. Did he add more? Did he close some? Looks like the most recent data. Okay, so I might be wrong there. He opened up more of a position from like 10:49 in the morning. But the more that you see this number drop off, you could just tell real time he is selling. So just be mindful of that because he's going to need to if he wants to remain in this position. So if we go to this chart now and add these two pieces of information together, I mean, hey, we're focused on this degenerate gambler, but he's got a lot of money. And, hey, if he gets taken out, we're going to expect to see more of a pullback. Well, I'll tell you what, that falls in line pretty damn nicely with the M2 global money supply because we're likely to drop here anyway after breaking the all-time highs. So the combination of seeing this guy getting like taken out at 105,000 and change, you could see a drop down to there, maybe even more of a drop pulling back deeper into these wicks. But you know what? Hey, if it still retains higher lows this whole time, if it still kind of builds up here and just kind of shakes into it, I could see this popping right back on up afterwards. And then, going back up to 112,000 by like next week, early to mid next week, perhaps. Who knows, right? You can't just put all of your money into this like M2 global money supply because even look what happens here using this one model, at least, where we're thinking about maybe pulling back one more time into the end of April. We didn't. We popped. I was looking for a pullback and I didn't get it. So I had to be a little bit more conservative here at this point when it was kind of going against this metric. But then it caught back up to it. It was popping back up more. So, there could be variables that come into play. But this M2 global money supply is very important because this is not just the United States. It's the world. It's the globe. It's the largest countries in the world. U.S., China, Russia, right away, those three. India as well included there too. But don't forget, like you got the ECB, Japan, the UK involved, Australia. So a lot of economies involved that factor into this. And the whole belief is that if Bitcoin's becoming more institutionalized, then it should, in theory, follow this metric a hell of a lot more over the course of time. That's why I was saying from the beginning of 2024, because there really wasn't as much correlation with this beforehand. There was, but there wasn't. So my belief is that with this becoming more institutionalized, more major nations, let alone sovereign nations that need to, adapt to Bitcoin to overcome the weakening of their own currency. I mean, we're seeing it with the US dollar here as well, but there's, smaller countries that need to buy Bitcoin to survive. I'm going to mix them up here probably in my head. What was it? Venezuela, I think Turkey. The Turkish lira has been getting crushed for a while. Nigeria is one I think that they're talking about kind of just buying Bitcoin in bulk. And look at what happened to, what was it, El Salvador? With their president and kind of, changing things over there. They've accrued a ton of money with this over time. Other nations are going to look to do the same. It's a giant gold rush in essence, right? It's a digital gold rush. So keep this in mind going forward, but we haven't forgotten about this because we introduced this back in early to mid-March, and we've been hawking this model ever since. So we've been saying from the end of April, hey, May is a good time to buy and hold. June coming up is a good time to buy and hold. Because allegedly, after the end of May into the beginning of June, according to the M2 global money supply, we're supposed to skyrocket here. So I'm super bullish, right? Yeah, I misled you if you're on YouTube right now. Probably seen the title of our video like, oh, is Bitcoin going to crash? Well, it has been crashing a little bit off the highs here, but probably not for long. Probably going to get a good bounce over time in the next few days and see what happens from there. All right. So, let me know if you have any questions on that, folks. Got a bunch of stuff here in the chat, I believe. Just give me a quick moment. Brian says, time for some turns. Break out open a vein from earlier talking about that leverage trader, right? Yeah. Lyndon Randy saying you're making us laugh, telling us how you really. Yeah, I mean, hey, it's true though. We got our money on the line here, right? Hey, I've been in the shoes of following this like leverage trader, like, oh, looking at one guy buy this, buy that, and just follow them, tail them on it. You got to know what they're doing first in order to trust them to risk your own money into the position. Second thing would be, though, you got to learn how the markets trade altogether, just generally speaking. So that involves support resistance. That involves seeing higher lows and seeing larger down wicks that are moving up higher after. That shows good strength. So it comes with time. If this is your first rodeo with Bitcoin, just think of it much like a stock. Keep it simple, right? Everyone talks about the volatility involved with Bitcoin. True. Yeah. You know what, though? You know what's also volatile? Tesla. Tesla's pretty freaking volatile here, I'd say, right? I think by metric, it is the most volatile stock in the entire market, especially the larger caps. You know what else is volatile? Freaking Palantir. Palantir is a missile. This thing's been skyrocketing. The more it goes up, the faster it goes up, it becomes more volatile, right? The higher the PE ratio is, it's going to become more volatile. I mean, MSTR is Bitcoin related, so just to tell you there, it's likely to be pretty volatile in lieu of Bitcoin trading. But hey, if you think Bitcoin's volatile, just think of it like a stock, because a lot of us here trade the IBIT, right? Or you hold on to it, you buy it, you swing trade it with us here inside our live trading room. All right, well, there's not really too many gaps to fill here in this area. The next gap would have to be all the way down here, back from early May. I don't think we're going to drop that low. I would be shocked if we fall that far. Some really bad news would have to come out to spike the market down pretty quickly. Not trying to wish that into existence. But just to say, though, hey, you want to try and see resistance flip into support. Looking at the IBIT trade, I would say like kind of this trio here, which creates this rounded top. It's basically where Bitcoin crashed first into at this point back from December. So this resistance, if it could flip, then we have a pretty good bounce afterwards. So, kind of that web of support to see build. Might have a little bit more room to drop down to like 60-ish, 60, 50, maybe even a little bit lower than it bounces back up. But that's all you got to do. I mean, the M2 global stuff is like a nice icing on the cake there. It's a nice cherry on top for us to add to the equation. But otherwise, just focus on your levels. We talked about this in phase 2 just earlier this morning. I came off a hot mic earlier discussing historical charting, looking back to see where your levels are. So this looks pretty clean to me. I'm just saying. All right, so real quick, because we got some questions that came in as well, and I want to talk about Nvidia earnings coming up after the market close today, so we'll get to that eventually. But we had some questions come in through email that came in through private chat just earlier. So give me a quick bit. Get the water in, right? Been on the stick all morning. I was supposed to get a wisdom tooth taken out yesterday. I was supposed to be speaking a lot funnier than I actually am right now. I got referred to an oral surgeon. So got to take care of that now even more. So probably get an appointment taken care of in a week or two. Surgery there. All good. I'm just getting a wisdom tooth pulled. But here we are. We got Patrick here in chat. So I want to get to Pat's question here to begin. I may have answered this. I may have actually kind of answered this in my spiel just before. But Pat was asking, hey, Josh, where do you think Bitcoin rebounds at? There we go. I just got half out of a large IBIT position. Cool. Well, congratulations, Patrick, because he sent that to me earlier at 10:15 in the morning. So he got out as either it was pulling back overnight or in pre-market, at least before it continued dropping off. So seemingly, it sounds like he did pretty well, made some good money on the trade, right? So congratulations to him. And, we did kind of just cover that. So I'm happy I caught that there. Again, just with the Bitcoin trade, maybe we can also just like talk about Bookmap. We could talk about level 4. What I like about TradingView, especially if you got a premium membership, I think that you have access to these volume bars, visible range. So I want to try something here. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay, so notice that we have a pretty strong spike, point of control right around 104,000. This is basically going back across the month of May. So you have a pretty good spike here where there's just consolidation, but it broke off from it, moved up pretty nicely from it here. If this really wants to drop, then I would look for it to try and come into this area and basically slingshot from it. Kind of come into it here, then bounce, fill the volume gap, basically looking at kind of like the gap in the volume that's traded there. So might come into it, kind of bounce back up after from there. That still falls in line pretty nicely with general higher lows across this squeeze. So there's a thought behind that, but that is exactly what it is, just a thought. So I want to mention this to other members, not just Patrick here, because he knows. I know he knows. But you can't predict the weather correctly every single day of the week. You're going to get it wrong eventually. So it's good to have scenarios. Trading is revolved around two very powerful words. We talk about this a lot. If and then. Not the word and. If and then. Those are the two. If, then. That's it, right? So making a funny joke there. But just to say, here, if this pulls down to this area low enough, then I'd feel confident with support trying to build. But it may not drop that low. It may kind of come into this here and kind of build a little higher and then bounce back up. But I just want to point that out because we definitely have a good spike of volume here, point of control, right around 103, 104,000. And with that, I'd feel confident that if this drops more, then we could get a pretty good bounce. That's all. Now, if we factor in bookmap here, at least. Here we go. Let's see. It's tougher to look for orders here, especially if they're not as large. So there was something down as low as 102,000. It was out there maybe like a number of days ago, like 5 days ago, they pulled the order. The nearest thing I'd say is 105, right around 105. Not your largest that we've ever seen, but it's one of the larger ones right now. About 120 Bitcoin at that price. At least that orange line was visible since the end of the 23rd into the next day. So the more it drops, it could fall there. If it goes any lower, then I would look for that point of control to act as pretty good support. That's what I'm looking for there. All right, so there we go. So there's one question down. Let's keep going though here, just in the meantime, real briefly. Oh, so don't forget here because this got sent in yesterday. I told Ron I'd get back to him on this one. So one of our students, Ron, asked me a question just regarding a trade yesterday on the stock. It's good segue, actually. Pretty good segue on SBET. I say good segue because this stock ended up coming out with news with not Bitcoin, but they're now affiliated with Ethereum, ETH. And, basically what a lot of these companies have done recently, like Nakamoto, Cantor Equity Partners, Asset, a lot of these trades are becoming Bitcoin holding companies that just accumulate and buy Bitcoin. They're basically copying the Michael Saylor play. But, this company, SBET, is coming out with news recently here that they are an Ethereum holding company. So they're putting a lot of money into Ethereum. Cool. Had a big pop and run. Now, Ron was saying, he's a real novice in getting orders filled. So it's time for an expert me to help him. I appreciate the kind words. He says that he's attached a trade manager summary of 3 trades that he did on the stock using the chart trading panel. So there's actually a little panel here. You could enable it on your TradeStation platform. There's buttons for buy and short, and it's like a different type of order bar compared to our normal order bar that we use on the level 2 screen on the market depth window. So at least with Ron's, he's saying that as you could see, the first 2 went smoothly, but the third went against him immediately. So he tried to sell, but he couldn't get out. His order status was quote unquote, you are out, as in the letter U, the letter R, O-U-T, on 2 attempts to sell, and then quote unquote rejected on 2 attempts before he finally got the sell order filled. And he attached a copy of his trade manager here. So I told him I was going to write back to him here in Traders Talk, get back to him in this workshop. Let's see, Ron. Give me a quick moment because the PDF for some reason isn't loading up here, my friend. One moment. Ah, there we go. There we go. Cool. Got it up here, Ron. Cool. We're good. Just giving me a little issue there. All right. So no sweat on just showing this. This is just, a quick little issue as far as like the order status. So yeah, it shows a bunch of trades filled. Then it says you are out. What's going on there? Looks like we bought, we sold, we bought, we sold, all at the quantity filled that we're looking at. So it's not like you were trying to close a position that you didn't have enough shares. Like if you try and close 500 shares of a stock, but you only have 200, it's going to give you that rejection. And that's like a, thing where you got to correct the position, like the number of shares. That didn't happen here. This looks normal so far. And then it says, 958, you are out, 400 shares. So rejected, rejected. This one filled. Doesn't show a stop. Now, I would also say that if you're using a limit order, let's say if you have a limit order, you're using a limit order and you have a ridiculously high price for your limit, but the stock is trading just here. Your limit price is going to actually get you filled at the lowest price possible, which technically is a market order. It just really, for purists out there, it's called a marketable limit order. That's not what happened here. So it's not like you're doing that because you'd have your order filled. What is going on here, Ron? I'm having a little difficulty here myself trying to see why it's giving you an issue. Maybe it has to do with settled funds, but again, even here, you're trading the same amount of shares. So I don't think that they rejected you at first only to get you filled because of a funding issue. 400 out, reject, 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 then finally out there again. I'll tell you what, Ron, I can't give you a straight answer on that. I could talk to you on the side. We can go further into this issue, whether it be through private chat or if you have a one-on-one that you could schedule, that would be pretty good as well. Either way, like I'll talk to you, but taking a look at your track record right there, there wasn't anything that stood out as far as the reason. Now, here's something I'll say. This is where the level 2 screen could be important because it gives you a little more info, like on my order bar. And there's like on the bottom of my level 2, it actually shows it. So not even at the top, but at the bottom of my level 2, if I ever have an order rejected, it will give you a reason why instead of just saying you are out. Because here, clearly, I mean, this looks legit so far. And then all of a sudden it starts giving you some weird, status here. But there should be more of a description oftentimes when you're getting rejected. So that's on the bottom of the level 2 screen, the very bottom, below like the numbers, like the orders to buy and sell at. It will show like a little confirmation thing. Now, it's only if you get rejected or things like that happen. So see if there's something there, Ron, not on the chart trading buttons, which I know what you're talking about. It's like a little panel. Use the level 2. And even if you're looking at level 2 now, maybe it goes further into it there. I'll talk to you on the side about that, Ron. Wish I can give you more of a straight answer right now, unfortunately. All right. So question coming in from Mike asking through email as well. What is your viewpoint about dark pools, dark pool prints, dark pool transactions? Do these trades show up on levels 2, 3, and 4? So dark pool transactions are technically, as I'll call them, market fills. They show up right away. They're not on the order book as much. It's not like it's a limit order to sell out there on level 3 or level 4. So just to point out here, like for reference, Tesla, you got an 84,000 share seller at 365. That's a limit order. That's a group of people that are looking to position their orders to sell there. So that's not dark pool stuff. Dark pools, though, are typically off exchange and off the order books in total. So those, in my opinion, are market orders, but they're not even on exchange transactions. They're basically under the book deals. They're between one firm, from client to client, kind of swapping a position. Fausto gives a lot better insight about this in his book, as well as in the phase 3 stock course there. And he'll go further into like personal experience as a market maker, discussing how it really works. My layman's terms answer to give you is that Doesn't show up on level 3, doesn't show up on level 4 in regards to those orange lines. They show up though on time and sales, and they will reflect oftentimes as far as these volume bars go. But primarily, you're going to see them on the tape, on the time and sales window. And with Bookmap, there is a way that you can get it to show, but you're more so focused on those volume bars. Just use this for right now. There we go. All right, so let me even turn to a more tradable stock currently here, like Tesla, as we had said. So when we look at Tesla live, this mostly is actually market orders that get filled, and then from there, limit orders afterwards. But just point being is that a dark pool print is something that I'll consider that is a lot more size than what we're seeing. Don't get me wrong, some of these could be dark pools, like they might be. If it's like 1,000 shares, 4,200 shares, 7,800 shares, I don't care about that stuff really. That to me doesn't tell me too much right away in the moment, because we're going to keep seeing more of these transactions pop up over the next several minutes here. What sticks out to me is if under size we have, instead of 10, it shows like 5,000. That's not 5,000 shares. That's 500,000 shares. So what I'll mention at least is I'll focus more on the size than anything. So if I see 5,000, I'm calling that instantly a big money level, a smart money level, big block buy or sell order that got filled. Is that a dark pool? Am I going to rip my hair out wondering, oh, is that a on exchange or off exchange transaction? Is it a dark pool? No. To me, that's irrelevant as long as I know where my level is, as long as I know where the money's trading at. Like again with Bitcoin, we have that 105,000 or 104,000 point of control. I care about the volume spike, the volume histogram there. If there's a big 500,000 share block transaction I see here, that's all I care about. I'm going to say that's a big level to watch. Clearly, somebody knows something, and depending on the reaction that we see afterwards as traders, that will give us the ability to dictate, all right, could we use that as support? Or is that going to be resistance coming up right away? So as far as how you find them, time and sales is your best bet. And then from there, Bookmap will show it based on like if you see a big dot popping up here over time. Granted, I don't want to call the opening bell print technically as a dark pool, because technically the opening bell print that I call the opening bell print, it's a conglomerate of orders that are triggered to get filled at the market open price. So that includes retailers, that includes like non-institutions. But point being is that if you have like a much larger dot here, that's just what I'm more focused on, more than the technicality of is it an actual dark pool or is it not a dark pool actually or whatever. There are some websites, if you really want to, do some research on your own, you could look up different like programs and like, websites that tally up the big prints. In my opinion, I don't know how they dictate it as dark pool versus not. But if there's certain programs that just filter out the time and sales such that you're seeing just the 100,000 block share transactions and that's it, that helps you identify them, I'm sure, a little bit better, right? So, my way of just doing it is like looking at simple volume bars on the chart, because like right away you could tell clearly at the minimum there was some giant volume that got filled here at the close just yesterday, right? The closing bell print. You can look at time and sales. If you're seeing it pop up in the moment, see a giant, print that comes in, well, we'll try and follow the reaction from there. And then again, like Bookmap, those volume dots, those dots are going to be pretty important with identifying like any larger block transaction, any dark pool print that comes out there. All right. So real quick from Dawn here is just a little follow-up in regards to Ron's little situation that he had earlier. So Dawn wrote, you are out, that little code from TradeStation. That's like a little code from TradeStation, our platform. It says this indicates that the order is no longer active. It's been either canceled by the user or by the system, or it is expired from AI Google. And that's what ChatGPT or AI is for. I appreciate that there, Dawn. Go back to that. Here's the issue though. You would be able to tell if it gets canceled or closed. Like I normally see where it says canceled. It would show canceled here as far as order status instead of where it says you are out. and it would show it more than it would show it just once because it happened 2 times here, right? So here's a thought, Ron. Here's just a thought. Maybe for some reason it's hiding where you're actually canceling the order, and maybe you did cancel a buy, and then you tried pressing buy again, and just it wasn't taking it for that reason. That's a thought. I'll definitely talk to you more about it just on the side, though, Ron. I appreciate you, sending that in at least. All right, so we're gonna get to Nvidia in just a moment here. Just want to make sure I'm not forgetting any questions that came in through email or through private chat here. I think that we're just about good. I just always got to double check spam. Always got to double check junk or spam just to make sure we're good there. No spam issues of late. That's nice. All right, Nvidia. Let me ask, who here has a long-term position currently on Nvidia? Are you long on Nvidia from the past week, from the past several months? If you are holding on to Nvidia long-term or going into at least the earnings tonight, just let me know. A broad question I kind of turned that into, but let me know, folks. Anyone holding into the Nvidia earnings, whether long term or even if you just got in recently from the past week. Margaret says yes. Brian, yes. Gillis, Piyush, Joyce, and on that ETF, the one that collects the high dividend, NVDY from Joyce. That's cool. Nice. So she's got to be doing well, at least collecting that monthly. Sam saying sold his puts yesterday, will not hold into the earnings. Well, I know he's done very well on his trade, selling those puts to collect the premium. So congratulations, Sam, on your trade. Gillis, long term, he's holding on. Brian, very long term. All right, excellent, nice. And if you're on social media too, let me know as well. If you're on social media, YouTube, Facebook, if you're TikTok, I always like to joke around. We're not dancing for you today, unfortunately. I need a few more drinks in me to get that going. But no, just if you have Nvidia, let me know there too. But let's get into the earnings, at least coming up for Nvidia. So here's what they're expecting. I'm just going to show this here, just little research before we jump in. So Nvidia said its outlook for Q1 included revenue of $43 billion, plus or minus 2%. Upside Q1 results. Oppenheimer said it sees upside Q1 results and a roughly in line Q2 outlook, despite the loss of H2O sales. Or H20 sales to China following U.S. government restrictions. China is now less than 5% of sales. Nvidia remains the best positioned in AI in Oppenheimer's view, benefiting from a full stack AI hardware, software, and unique rack level approach. Yada, yada, yada. I'm going to copy and paste this here inside the chat room here for us, just in case if you want to read up more on it. So click on that there. It'll basically blow up inside the trading room in the chat. Click on the image there. But otherwise, if you wanted to just follow me along here for the Nvidia earnings, so I can't really give you too much more myself as far as like research goes, from what we just showed there. But we'll go more into the levels, more into where the historical charting is, the money, where the orders are currently on the book. So let's do that there first, and we'll see what aligns up. It's going to load up here for a bit. All right. So again, Nvidia earnings, folks, are coming up after the market closes here today. A lot of us, like we just said before, Sam, Grant, Brian, Gillis, Joyce, Piyush, got Margaret, a few more of us, either just close trades out or you're long-term on it, either holding on into the earnings or much afterwards. But as far as at least the levels go, where could we identify potential support resistance here on this trade? Let's actually go back to yesterday, because I thought, if I'm not mistaken, this yesterday had a pretty good move off of 135 and unfortunately didn't really make the better breakout until this morning. But let's just take a look, even if we can go back further. Hopefully I'm able to go back further here. If not, though, it's all right. Point being is that it broke above resistance yesterday at $135. It kept testing that resistance, and it broke out. So it made a pretty good move, at least in the morning here today. Ran up as high as nearly 137 before pulling back. Now, here's the good thing. 135 held damn well as support. So to see resistance get broken over, and, we saw a pullback here. Well, it broke under and over. And shortly after 10:30, a little afterwards perhaps there, but it bounced, started to reverse back up. Now, this is where we left off in class, though. In the phase 2 stock course, we were talking about the stock market and talking about just the potential of a reversal around 11 o'clock, 10:30-ish. A little bit afterwards, it's starting to at least try and make this rounded bottom shape. Market isn't fully recovered yet. We haven't made a great bounce back up, at least just yet. So to see Nvidia at least perform a little bit better compared to the SPY here. I feel like this is a stronger rebound on Nvidia comparative to the SPY, where this kind of curdled a little bit lower, then starting to push here. So that could be a good sign for things ahead. I can't imagine too many people are bearish Nvidia. Maybe there's some people that aren't very bullish Nvidia, but that doesn't mean that you're very bearish Nvidia. You know what I mean? Like Fausto says all the time, oh, if you don't like the company, then short it. Guess what? Smart money is not that emotional. So, he says that, of course, with good reason in mind, because you kind of see the hard way what happens, right? That's where here, I don't think too many people are like utterly bearish Nvidia long term or even short term. If anything, maybe the degenerate gamblers are that are looking for some prospective drop. But I'll just tell you, though, the fact that we're bouncing here heading into the late morning so far is good. If the markets pull back, then I'm sure this is likely to, fall a little bit, not swim upstream as easily. But let me ask us, though, where did we have resistance get broken through recently here? Look on my screen and you'll see what happened. Where did we have resistance get broken through? It failed a little bit after, but it broke over an orange line. At what price? What do we got here, folks? At what price did this break over resistance temporarily? Temporarily. 136, right? Some huge buying came in. I mean, a 383,000 share print got filled right here. One block. Let me see. I'll just give you a real number. Make sure that's right. Make sure that's right. Give you a real number here. Yeah, that's legit. 276,000 in one block. So that could have been dark pool partly, but otherwise, though, it rejected off of it at first. The more this can come up to this level, at least if this can try and make a squeeze back up, that's even better, because the more it could do it in a smaller compression, it is more bound to make that breakout, more bound to make that next leg up. So you definitely want to see it hold here a little bit more and not try and pull back any further here. So if this just gets wiped out, then that's a bit of a red flag. So at least as far as the orders go, the more buying that we have off of 136, I'll feel better. Otherwise, though, once this does report earnings, if it's good earnings, then we're going to get a pretty decent pop to begin. So let's look further back as far as our key icebergs go. You tell me, where's our key iceberg? Where's our clear resistance now on the screen that I'm showing you? Don't need to overcomplicate things here, right? $140, right? $140. Got a 200,000 plus share. 1 second. Gotta reveal that extra digit there. That is a 2 million share order. That's not 200,000. That is 2 million shares out there on the ask. So on a good pop, wouldn't surprise me if this at least moves up towards here, if not more. I don't know what the implied move is, what the analysts are implying as the projected move. Let's even, just say a 5% implied move. That takes it up to 141, nearly $142 on a 5% implied move. So that's actually even less. This is less than 5%. So that's far within the realm of possibility. This is very possible to see if Nvidia has a good earnings report, to have it at least try and test it, if not even blast over it. Who knows? Now, if they don't have a good report, then likely to see some big support pop in or get tested. The orders on the ask far outweigh the orders on the bid. So just might need to be careful there. Hopefully something larger pops up to generate potential support. Looks like there was something here at 133. They pulled that. Something showed up recently here at 135 just a moment ago, actually, like about 5 minutes ago. It's got a lot larger. This order on the bid went from 89, 90,000 shares. Well, now it's 116,000. All right. So, at least as long as this holds, perhaps this could at least be good support for us. If this gets broken through, though, that's where you got to watch out, because seemingly our next larger level wouldn't be until 130, maybe 128. So let's say if it's like a 5% drop, at least from where Nvidia closes at, if they kind of close right around here and they have a 5% drop off, that would take it technically to $129 roughly. So, hey, these levels are within, possibility of getting tested just on a good or bad beat, obviously. Good beat could definitely see 140 and above. Bad beat, you might see it drop below 130 temporarily there. 129, 130. So Those are levels I would just keep in mind, especially since they do line up pretty well with Bookmap, especially the seller here. And then again, you have the buyer. It's just a little diluted, but they've been out there the whole morning here at 130. So those are levels to keep an eye on as far as Bookmap goes, as far as following the money goes. Now, if you're looking at Nvidia, and here's our SPY drop, that's not helping the cause. But if we're looking at Nvidia as far as like historical levels go, oh, you know what? Shoot, let's go back to TradingView because I was like John Madden with my telestrator earlier here. Let's go over to Nvidia. Got a bunch of crap up here. We'll delete that. We'll delete this. Just focus simply on our levels, and we'll just look at the daily chart here to begin. So with Nvidia, we had a pretty good top here. I know it spiked above it on this morning, but it kind of fell back instantly. And otherwise, aside from this one candle, you could see a beautiful rounded top pattern building there. Looks like it's pretty much there now. It is right there kissing that top for the most part. It has been for a little bit. I'm speaking about this. So it definitely needs to flip that into support, if not just blast way higher from it. So that's right around 136, 137. I mean, I like this because of the reaction. Look at this sharp drop after the rounded top was built. So it's all about the reaction that you want to see. That's where I'm more focused on this as resistance. Now, generally, your next resistance after that is this top afterwards here. So there's a few different levels that we got to keep a good eye on. I would probably give it a combination there. Let's see if I can do this. All right, cool. So what we're going to do is just basically focus in on resistance that we have. If I could even get this right, give me a moment, give me a moment, give me a moment. There we go. So we'll look at resistance here basically at this line, basically just right around 136. But then if it really wants to continue long-term and pushing way higher, it's more just this range collectively that will need to flip into a support right around like 149.50-ish and then like 152 and change. So combination of that will need to flip next into support afterwards. I wouldn't expect for this to break all-time highs on a great pop here from earnings. I think it's a little far out the way. Hey, if I'm wrong with that, that's fine by me. I'm just saying take it level by level. So if this has good earnings, then we could probably see a push up to 140, if not over. And then maybe over time in the subsequent weeks after that point, perhaps you get the better push up higher towards that next resistance. Have a little push up here, come back down, fill the gap, then back up. Who knows, right? Just something loosely speaking like that. All right, folks, that almost takes us to 1 o'clock. We're going to finish up Traders Talk in just a moment here. So first and foremost, if you're on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the works, TikTok included, just follow us namely on YouTube. Just go on YouTube, hit the follow, hit the subscribe button. We stream live there each and every morning, each and every afternoon. I'm on here normally every Monday with this workshop. So again, with Memorial Day that we just had, I have a couple holidays kind of messing up the calendar a little bit, not to sound like a grouch, but we normally do this workshop on Mondays. Today is Wednesday because of Memorial Day. We had to do this here. So just hit the follow or subscribe button down below. Also, like hit the notification icon, make your settings known so you know when we're going live. You can get the little bell or alert popping up on your phone, on your mobile device, either way. Or otherwise, if you wanted to join us inside our live trading room, take the next step and potentially become a student of ours, go right down to the link scrolling on the bottom below right there. Just if you're not as fancy with your phone, with your camera, you can go right down to the link on the bottom. Just type it in on your internet browser, ctu.co/trial. Take you to a week-long membership here with us. But, hey, otherwise, let me know if you have any other questions, folks. Margaret, Michael, Lynn, and Randy, Brian, Piyush, Gillis. If not, I think that we will call it a wrap here. So, again, we're on every Monday with this workshop, and we'll come back next Monday with a new edition. For our students, at least, if you are a silver, gold, platinum, or diamond level CTU student, keep in mind, we got the Phase 2 stock course continuing today at 3 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to continue with our next live class. So even further, if you're on social media, it's as good of a time as any to enroll into our program. So here this week, we're covering these 4 classes here. We just came off of this one earlier this morning, historical charting. And then later on today, we'll be talking about charting the market. So talking about the SPY, the Qs, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, just the overall major markets and indices that we can at least correlate our swing trades with, follow those Mag 7 stocks more with, like Nvidia itself and others. But this is what we're teaching coming up this month and next. All right, but otherwise, hey, we'll be back later on today inside our live trading room, and we'll go from there. Talk to everybody soon.